Think about the last time you priced a side gig. You've got a lead. A real one. Someone DM'd you, or a friend of a friend asked, "Can you help us with this?" You open a blank doc and start drafting a simple quote. Scope, timeline, your rate, finally, money that doesn't depend on your next paycheck. And then you do the responsible thing. You pull up your old offer letter. Just to double check you're not missing anything. And there it is. 2 words you barely noticed back then. Non-compete. Suddenly your excitement turns into math. Rent, groceries, that credit card balance you promised you'd crush. You're not trying to get rich. You're trying to breathe. Now you're staring at legal language you didn't negotiate, didn't fully understand, and honestly didn't think would matter. And the worst part? You already told that potential client you'd get back to them. But now you're wondering if you're even allowed to say yes. Let me be clear about something. That non-compete isn't just HR paperwork. It's a quiet income limiter. Here's what most people don't realize. A non-compete can block you from earning in your own field even after you leave the job. Not by saying, you can't freelance, but by boxing you in through definitions, competitors, customers, territory, time, and the hidden part is how broad those words can be. Competitive business can mean an entire industry, not your exact role. Customers can include prospects you never even met. Territory can be a city, a state, or basically everywhere your work could touch. So what happens in real life? You don't take the gig. You don't pitch the client. You don't even test your offer, because the clause doesn't have to beat you in court to beat you in life. According to the FTC, about 30 million workers, nearly 1 in 5 Americans, are subject to a non-compete. And the FTC estimates banning non-competes would raise the average worker's earnings by about $524 per year. That's the scale of the problem. That moment you recognized in your own life, the pause before you send a quote, is the mechanism working exactly as designed? And it goes deeper than that. Once you see the mechanism, you start noticing the choke points hiding in plain sight. A non-compete usually doesn't care what your job title was. It cares what business you're in, and those definitions can be written so wide that your whole skill set gets treated like a threat. Think of it like a fence built around your expertise. Not your laptop, not your employer's secrets, your expertise. The clause often stacks 3 walls. What industry counts as competitive, which clients or customer types are off limits, and how long you're supposed to wait before you can earn normally again. Here's the twist. Competitive can be defined as any business whose products or operations are in any respect competitive with or otherwise similar to the company. That kind of language shows up in real contract clause examples, and it's paired with a timeline like 12 months following termination, plus a territory that can cover huge regions. In other words, it's not, don't steal our customers. It's, don't work near anything that looks like us. So picture someone like a marketing manager leaving a SaaS company. You're trying to consult on positioning and messaging. You're not taking code. You're not taking a client list. But if the clause defines competitors as any business offering similar services, then software becomes a minefield. Suddenly half the companies you'd naturally serve feel risky, and for you, that means your client pool shrinks before you even start. You either lower your rates to take whatever's safest, or you jump into unrelated gigs you don't even want, just to keep money coming in. But the next layer is what really makes this hurt. It's not just the words. It's what those words do to your behavior. After the language boxes you in, the real damage happens in your head. Because the strongest part of a non-compete isn't a courtroom win. It's uncertainty, the risk of a nasty email, a letter, a threat that makes you feel like you're one invoice away from a legal mess you can't afford. And when you're freelancing, you don't have legal department energy. You have rent due energy. Employers know a cease and desist letter can be a cheap, fast pressure move. An employment law guide from Epstein Becker Green describes it as a valuable preliminary step, used to remind you of obligations and warn that legal action will follow if you don't stop. Even that alone is enough to freeze your momentum. So imagine you land an $8,000 a month retainer in the exact niche you're best at. You draft the agreement, then you hesitate. You picture your former employer contacting the client. You picture the client getting spooked and ghosting you. You picture paying a lawyer just to understand whether you're safe, and then you self-censor. You take a smaller project outside your niche to be safe. You delay launching. You stop posting about what you do. That's opportunity cost. The money you could have earned but didn't because the risk felt too high. Zoom out and you see the pattern. A U.S. Treasury report cited in a Minnesota House document notes that living in a state with strict enforcement of non-competes is associated with about a 5% reduction in pay for a typical 25-year-old worker, and about 10% for a typical 50-year-old. That's not just legal theory. That's the price of fear. Now here's the question that matters. If you can't afford do nothing, how do you keep earning without stepping on the landmines? You now understand why the clause feels bigger than your job. Next, you're going to see how someone kept consulting income flowing by changing the frame, not abandoning the field. That change the frame move matters because you're not trying to win an argument. You're trying to keep cash coming in without inviting a fight. Here's the clean concept. You can stay in the same general field, but shift your offer away from the exact activity the clause is trying to block. Non-competes usually target competing work, not every way you can use your brain. So instead of being the hands-on operator inside a competitor, you become the educator, the auditor, or the short-term specialist. Different deliverable, different risk. There's a real-world example of this exact pivot in an operations consulting context. A non-compete with a 12-month post-engagement restriction blocked a consulting firm from providing the same hands-on warehouse operations support to competing retailers. So they repositioned the work as a training audit program, reviewing internal training curriculum, measuring staff competency against benchmarks, and delivering a recommendations report instead of redesigning layouts or running inventory workflows. Same expertise, different lane. The clause didn't explicitly prohibit the training evaluation work because it wasn't direct operational execution for a competitor. Bring that down to your world. If your clause makes you scared to consult, you don't default to zero income. You ask, what's the version of this that's clearly not substituting for your old employer? One-time audits instead of ongoing management. Workshops instead of implementation. A different segment, like nonprofits instead of venture-backed tech. A defined project, not an embedded role. So what do you actually do with this week, so you can quote work confidently and stop guessing? Here's exactly what to do. Not vibes. Paper and decisions. Step 1. Collect the whole document set. Offer letter. Any non-compete. Any non-solicit. Confidentiality, IP agreement. Handbook addendums. Save PDFs. One folder. Step 2. Make a one-page, money killers, summary. Restricted activities. What work is banned? Restricted parties. Who you can't serve, competitors, clients, even prospects. Geography, market. Where it applies. Time window. How long and when the clock starts. Step 3. Build a client map. List 10 ideal clients you'd pitch this month. Tag each green, yellow, red based on industry overlap and any relationship to your former employer. Step 4. Create a safe offer for the restricted period. Pick one lever. Change segment, different industry or customer type. Change deliverable, audit, training, one-time strategy. Change role, advisor for a project, not embedded execution, same rate integrity. Different exposure. Step 5. Create a paper trail. A dated description of your services, your target market, and how it differs. Don't use old templates or materials. Don't pitch current clients of the old company. Step 6. Get a targeted legal read, cheaply. Bring the one-pager and the client map to an employment attorney. Ask 3 things. Enforceability risk, what to avoid, and a compliant positioning statement. If this was useful, the next video you'll want is the breakdown on non-solicits and confidentiality clauses, the ones that quietly kill referrals. Subscribe for more fine print that affects your income, and drop a comment with your industry and what your clause restricts, no company names.